Isaiah 40, starting in verse 18. To whom then will you liken God? Or what likeness will ye compare unto him? The workman melteth a graven image, and the goldsmith spreadeth it over with gold, and casts silver chains. So we're talking about idols here. If you want an idol, what do? You hire a workman. You hire someone who knows how to work with metal, and he makes this mold and forms the thing in the way he wants it, and then you hire another person, a goldsmith. And the goldsmith comes in and gets the gold, and he covers the whole thing with gold. And then he also makes these chains out of silver and drapes them around them. And verse 20, he that is so impoverished that he hath no oblation, an oblation is an offering. So the person who's so poor that he doesn't even have an offering to give to this idol, what does he do? He finds a tree. He chooses a tree that will not rot. He cuts it down. He seeks unto him a cunning workman to prepare a graven image that will not be moved or will not fall over. In other words, he gets this wooden chunk of tree, and he finds someone to carve it and make it so at least it will stand up straight. That's what they do if you're looking for an idol. Now, if you go to India, there will be temples there, and there's shrines there, and you can go into these temples, and there will be idols. And there may be big idols. You may have a Buddha there, right? Or you may have this woman that has all these hands behind her. Different idols. They have them there. You go into the homes, and they'll have a shelf where they have all these idols sitting up there. And these are idols that they worship. But here in America, we don't have that. We came to church, no idols here. There's no idols. You go into your home, you don't have any idols either. So I'm in trouble because this whole sermon's about idols. And then you also have the first commandment, right? We don't need that either. It says, thou shalt have no other gods before me. We don't need that. We don't need this sermon. So we can all go home. I think we do have gods. In America, we don't have the idols, and yet we do have idols. We just don't call them idols. In America, we have other gods, but we don't call them gods. But they do exist. So what are they? What are some idols or some gods that we have in America? Cars. Okay, some people. Oh, the phone. Yeah. Oh, no, I thought she was, you were holding up your phone. I thought she was holding up her kid, but no, that's not, she wasn't holding him up. What else? Huh? Food. What else? Children. Okay, they can be, yes. Or either that or we just get rid of all the children, right? Then we don't have, no, that's not what we're suggesting. What else? Sports. Yeah, there you go. Ourselves. Oh, wow. That was number one on my list. So, and sports is there too. I actually have a list of the top 10, and then I have some runners up too. And you've gotten some of them. Anything else? Money. There you go. That's number 3 on mine. Good job. So, number 1, I had self. Number 2, I had church. Sometimes church can be an idol. Money, TV, computer. There's certain sins. Certain sins can become idols to you. Sports, politics, hobbies, boyfriend or girlfriend, good luck items, superstitious things, education, school, my runners up here, work, radio, music, cars was there too. These are things that people have replaced God with. God is supposed to be our all in all. God is supposed to have a special place in our life. God is supposed to make us happy. God is supposed to be the one that we go to when we have problems. God is the one that is supposed to, that is the one who takes care of us. God is the one who provides for us. God is the one who loves us. And God does these things, but we don't see it. Because why? We have our idol. We have our thing over here that's doing all that stuff for us. Yeah? Yeah, God is supposed to be our all in all. God is supposed to be the one that takes up all of our time. But these idols have removed God out and put themselves up as the God of our lives. And that's not good. What is your idol? Now, I don't want anybody to know. Don't share with us this morning. But I want you to think in your own mind, what is your idol? Maybe as we went through this list, you thought of some, and you said, hey, I do that. So what are the idols? I want you to think of one and get it in your mind. Everyone has to have their own idol in their mind, or their own God. Call it a God if you want to. Call it an idol. All right, you got it in your mind? Okay, now isn't it true that we prefer our idols over God? Isn't it true we prefer those things? My sermon this morning is 3 reasons. 3 reasons why we prefer our idol. Number 1, idols can be seen. All right? I just happened to bring something with me this morning. Here's my idol. There you go. There. See, he got feet on there, so he does stand up, like I said there, and he's not moved, but he was moving. See? Look. Yeah, but here's my idol. You're okay with me having an idol here, right? You're not going to stone me? Okay, good. I can see him. And so when I want to worship God, I can concentrate on this idol and worship my idol. I can see it. And that's why people have idols. You can't see God. Right? We all came to church this morning. We all came here to worship God. And God is here, but we didn't see him. None of us saw him. And maybe we didn't even think about God. Well, I think with some of the songs here, we had to think about him, and we did. And those are great song selections. But a lot of times we don't even think about God because we don't see him. And we think because we don't see God that God doesn't exist. And we think because we don't see God that God is not really that important to us because we don't see him. We can see the idol. We can see our idol. What was your idol? Think about it. You can see it. Right? It's something you can see. God you can't see. What is God like then? Look in verse 21. Have you not known? Now, these things that we're going to say here are things you already know. Okay? And that's why he's saying you should know these things. Have you not known? Have you not heard? Has it not been told you from the beginning? Have you not understood from the foundations of the earth? It is he that sitteth on the circle of the earth. You want to know where God is? You want to know who God is? You want to see God? It's God who sits on the circle of the earth. Go up in an airplane, okay? You go up in the airplane and look at the horizon, and it's a curve. And the higher up you get, the more a curve it becomes, and it becomes a circle. And it's God who sits on the circle of the earth. Now, God doesn't, he's not like these idols, right? These people, they have a shelf where they put the idols on the shelf, and they have them. God doesn't sit on the shelf. God sits on the circle of the earth. That's where God sits. What else? And the inhabitants thereof are as grasshoppers to him. It is him that stretches out the heavens as a curtain. All the universe, he takes like a curtain and he stretches it out. And he says, there you go, there's your heavens. There's your stars. That's what God does, and spreads them out as a tent to dwell in. It is God that brings the princes to nothing, that makes the judges of the earth as vanity. You know those kings on this earth? You know the kings, you know the presidents, you know the leaders of this earth. God, to them, they are nothing. They are nothing. You get that? You may worry about it. You may think, oh, this is so terrible. These people are wrecking America, or these people are wrecking this world. To God, they are nothing. 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 All the smart people that come up with these great things like gender identity. They're like the judges. that he's talking about here, to God, that's vanity, stupidity. That's emptiness. Yea, and what does he do with them? Yea, they shall not be planted. These people, they shall not be planted. Yea, they shall not be sown. Yea, their stock shall not take root in the earth. And he shall also blow upon them, and they shall wither. You see, God can take care of them. God just blows on them. They're gone. They're gone. That's how great God is. And the whirlwind shall take them away as stubble. To whom then will you liken me? Now here is God speaking. It was Isaiah before now, and Isaiah was just saying it the way I did. I'm sure he was. But now God speaks, and he says, to whom will you liken me? You have your idols, and a lot of times people have idols because they remind them of God. And they can focus on this idol. And then they have something to look at. They have something to worship. But God says, who will you liken me? To whom will you liken me? Or shall I be an equal to? To whom? Do you want a picture of God? Do you want to see God? Huh? Do you? Well, look at the next verse. Lift up your eyes on high. Go outside at night, preferably. Look up in the sky, and behold, who hath created these things? Look at all the stars you see at night. Look at everything. Who created them? God did. That's who. What else? It's God that bringeth out their hosts by number. Now, if you don't know what the word host means here, then you're going to miss the whole thing here. Do you know what a host is? What it's talking? It's not someone who has guests. Host here doesn't mean that here. Now, normally it would, but it doesn't here. It means army. Army. Do you want to see God? Go out in the sky, at night, look up in the sky, see all the stars. That's God's army. Huh? That's representative of his army. Do you want a mental picture? You want a physical picture of God? That's it. There's his army, and he has them by number. He brings them out by numbers. How many stars are there in the sky? I asked Alexa, how many stars are in the sky? And she told me, astronomers think there's about, of course, they haven't counted them, there's about 100 million. 100 billion with a B. 100 billion stars. Those stars are God's army. 100 billion soldiers in his army. Well, how big is 100 billion? Well, I asked Alexa again. Alexa, how many people are there on earth? And when I was a kid, there was 4 billion. But now it says, she said, 7.55 billion people. 7.55 billion. So that's billion with a B, and we have all these soldiers of God in heaven. They're 100 billion. That's about 13, a little more than 13 angels for each of us. That's a pretty big God. Wouldn't you think that's a pretty big God? Everybody in the world, they get 13 angels, 13 soldiers. That's my God. You want a picture of God? You go look at the stars and you see that those are his soldiers, that's how many soldiers he has, that's how many angels he has, that's how big and how great God is. 100 billion. And he calls them out by names. He has a name for each one. By the greatness of his might. For that he is strong in power. Not one faileth. All these angels he has, not one has fallen to the enemy. Not one has been taken out by the enemy. Not one has been defeated by the enemy. That's my God, and that's how great my God is. 100 billion of an army, and not one has been lost. Just because God is invisible does not mean he doesn't exist. Just because God is invisible doesn't mean that he's not important to us. Just because God is invisible doesn't mean that he's not there. Another reason why we prefer idols, number 2, is idols are what people want. It's what people want. Look at my idol. You know, Girlie, she likes to go to thrift stores. I do not go in those places. That's just like, but she likes to go to thrift stores, and she will spend hours there. I sit in the car, I stay in the car, and she spends hours in the thrift store. But I needed an idol for today, okay? So I went into the thrift store, and I found an idol. So now you know it's not really an idol. Some of you that were offended, it's just a decoration thing. But I found the one I wanted. It was only $0.25. And so I bought it, and here we have an idol today. I put a chain with a cross on it too. See? So he's a Christian idol. I got the one I wanted. We do the same thing with our idols and our gods. We pick the ones we want. And we have them because we want them. We want these things. But it's not supposed to be about what we want, is it? It's supposed to be about what God wants. What does God want? And here you have your idol. It's what you want. You know God doesn't want it, and yet you still have it. Look at verse 27. Why sayest thou, O Jacob, and speaketh, O Israel? Now, this is Isaiah. He's talking to the Jews. And so, Jacob, Israel, he's talking to the Jews. He says, why do you say, what? My way is hid from the Lord. My way is hid from the Lord, and my judgment is passed over from my God. Don't we think that about our idols? Well, God doesn't see it. Hey, I got this thing I do. God doesn't see it. It's hid from him. Yeah, well, why do you say that? Huh? And what's the other one? Hey, the judgment's passed over me. Oh, everybody else is judged for this, but God gave me a special pass. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with this. It's fine. God will not judge me. I'm fine. And these are the rationalities we make about our idol, about putting ourselves first. We think God doesn't see it. We've hidden our stuff from God. But what does it say? Hast thou not known? Here we go again. Hast thou not known? This is something you should know, all right? Hast thou not known? Hast thou not heard that the everlasting God, the Lord, you see the word Lord here? Just a break here. The word Lord, it's in capital letters. Yeah, it is, right there. And they're all big capitals. A lot of times in the Bible, sometimes you'll have a big capital L, and then you'll have small O-R-D. Here you have big capital letters, L-O-R-D. You know what that means? That's the name of God. You see, the translators, they didn't want to put God's name there because God is a holy God. And we're not to take his name in vain. And so they didn't want to put his name there, which would be Jehovah or Yahweh or something like that, depending on how you pronounce the Hebrew. So instead of putting his name, they put that. Lord in all capital letters, big capital letters. And so that's what that means. That's God's name there. Right there in the Greek or the Hebrew, it's God's name. Hast thou not known, hast thou not heard, that the everlasting God, the Lord, his name, the creator of the ends of the earth, fainteth not. God doesn't get tired, okay? Neither is he weary. There is no searching of his understanding. You had this thing you're hiding from him? Yeah. And you think God just got tired and he just went away? No, he didn't get tired. No, he didn't faint. No, he's not weary. No, he didn't give up his idea that what was the first commandment? Thou shalt have no other gods before me. He didn't give up on that. He didn't change his mind. It wasn't that he didn't understand how things are and that he doesn't understand your I almost said addiction. I'm sorry. Your God. He didn't understand your idol, and it's really good for you. He just doesn't no. God understands. No. God has not changed. No. It still is that thou shalt have no other gods before me. That's what it is. And yet we have them. Why? Because we want them. We want them. That's what we want. We're supposed to be doing what God wants. Number 3, and the last one. Yeah. Number 3, idols don't make people wait. Idols don't make people wait. Let's take another look at your idol. You got it in your mind? It doesn't make you wait. If your idol is, for example, television, what? All you do is turn it on. Boom, it's on. Mine does, okay? Some of these TVs, they take a while to warm up, right? Anyways, but it's almost instant. If your God is sports, hey, you don't have to wait for sports. You got the phones. You can have it on the phone. You can watch sports on phone. You can watch sports in your car if you have the video thing. You can watch sports on your iPad. You can get a sports channel. You can have it everywhere you go. And that's the great thing about idols. They don't make us wait. But God does. God does. I had a job in Wichita when I was 18, before I turned 18. McCormick Armstrong, actually, is in the summertime before my junior and senior year. McCormick Armstrong is a printing place. They have these huge printing presses, and they do print jobs for all over the United States. They print books and things there. And I was hired for one certain job, and that's because they had this basement that had all their records in it, folders and papers and everything, and it got flooded. Okay, that was several years before I got hired. And that stuff had just sat there, and it's still wet. It had these big bugs in there, and it was my job to clean the thing out. But that's not something a rookie does. It's not something a person on minimum wage does. And so I had to work with the owner of the company. So he told me, he said, now when you get to work, I want you to go down there. I want you to wait for me. Wait for me. He didn't come in at the same time I did. I don't know. But oftentimes I spent hours down there waiting. And then he'd come down and he'd say, oh, okay, you see these? I just take these out right here and put them out there on the floor. I will be back. And so I'd take them out. I'd put them on the floor and get them all out there. And what'd I do? I'd wait. I'd wait. And sometimes it would be hours, and I'd just be sitting down there. I got paid, of course, by the hour, but what I do, I waited on him for a whole month. I waited on this guy. We got the whole thing cleaned out, but I waited and waited. You know, kings, they have people who wait on them. Yeah, kings have like butlers. They wait on them. They have cooks that wait for when he's hungry. They have managers. They have personal assistants. These are all people that wait on him. God is the King of kings. And it just goes to reason that God's going to have people waiting on him. And that's us. That's us. In fact, the Bible is full. The Bible is full of people who waited for God. I know you don't like to wait for him, but the Bible's full of people who waited years, decades and decades. They waited for God. And we're going to have to wait for him too. Chapter 20, or verse 29. Verse 29. He giveth power to the faint, and to them that have no might he increases strength. Are you tired? He'll give you strength. Are you weak? He'll give you strength. Even the youth shall faint and be weary, and the young men shall utterly fall. But they that wait upon the Lord, you see, what does this word wait mean? Funny, in Bible college, I had a professor who's trying to explain what this word wait means. Well, it means to wait. All right? It just means to wait. And they that wait on the Lord, again, his name, right? Yeah, there it is, his name. They that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall run and not be weary, and they shall walk and not faint. I know it's not easy to wait, but that's what God does. A lot of people have waited on God for a little while, and then they say, oh, well, God's not here. Okay, let's get my idol out. No, all right, here. Yeah, get my idol out. Yeah. There, now I feel a lot better. I don't have to wait on God anymore because he's here. So there you have it. 3 reasons why people prefer idols. Idols can be seen. Idols are what people want. And idols don't make people wait. But I'm here to tell you this morning that God doesn't want you to have other gods. Did you get that yet? Yeah, that's why I'm here. To tell you, God doesn't want you to have other gods before him. God doesn't want you to have the idols. God doesn't want you to have the gods. God wants to be your all in all. God wants you to come to him and get those things that you get from your idol, to get those from him. Because God's here to provide for you. God is a great God. God is huge. And God is able to do everything. And in him we can find all we ever need. We don't need the idols. We don't need the other gods. I want to end with a story about the Mount Sinai. Remember Moses and the children of Israel? They were in Egypt, and God brought them out of Egypt, took them through the Red Sea, parted the sea and everything, gave them water out of the rock, and a whole bunch of other miracles that God did. And they ended up at the bottom of Mount Sinai. And God spoke to Moses one day, and he said, Moses, I'm going to come and I'm going to talk to the people. And I want them to prepare themselves. And it's going to be on such and such a date. He said the day, I'm going to be there. They need to be ready for me. They need to make themselves holy. And I'm going to be there. That morning, everybody woke up to thunder. Thunder and the roll and the ground trembling and shaking. And they looked out their tents and they saw lightning up on the mountain. And they saw fire coming down. And they were scared to death. As well you would be if you ever saw God. They were scared. But they came out and they got at the bottom of the mountain, and God started talking to them. And God started telling them the things that he wanted them to do. And what did they say? They said, Moses, come over here. Moses, we're scared. Could you just go talk to God, and then you come and talk to us and tell us what God says? We'll do whatever he says. And so that's what happened. Moses went and talked to God. God told him all this stuff. He wrote it all down. He came back to the people, and he said, this is the stuff God wants. And he reads it all, a lot of stuff. Okay, there's a lot of stuff there. Of course, one of the first things, thou shalt have no other gods before you. You shall have no other gods before him. And all these things, and he got done reading them, and they said, we will do it. We promise. We will do those things. We promise. Well, then God talked to Moses, and he said, Moses, you need to come up here to me, and I want to talk to you. You bring Joshua with you, and you come up here. And so Moses got Joshua. They went up onto this mountain. They went up into the clouds of smoke and everything, and they disappeared up in there. The children of Israel, they're down there, and wow, okay, well, we'll wait for him. And they waited for Moses to come back. Moses didn't come back. They waited and they waited. Moses didn't come back. So they went, what'd they do? You know, they went to Aaron. They said, make us a gold calf. In Egypt, they had gold calves. Those were their gods. And so we need some gods. So make us, we can't see this God up there. Yeah, he's not doing what we want him to do. We don't want to wait on him, right? So make us this calf. And so Aaron made this calf, and he set it up there, and he said, here's your God. Do you think that humiliated God? Huh? He said, here's your God. And they said, oh, here's our gods that brought us up out of Egypt. Do you think that was an insult to God? Do you think our gods insult God? Because he could have done the very same things. Huh? Because he does do the same things. And so they worshiped the calf and said that was their God. That's one group of people there. These people never made it to the promised land. Never made it there. You have someone else in the picture, though, right? Remember them? Moses and Joshua. They disappeared up in the clouds, right? What happened? They got up there and they got a place to sit and sat down, and they waited for God. And they waited an hour. They waited 2 hours. They waited 3 hours. They waited 4 hours. They waited 5 hours. It started getting dark, right? God hadn't shown up. Yeah, well, what do you do? Go to bed. So they went to bed, woke up in the morning. They waited for God. They waited an hour. They waited 2 hours. They waited 5 hours. They waited. How long do you wait for God, huh? How long do you wait before God before you say he's not going to show up? But they waited all day and all the next day and the next day and the next day for 7 days. 7 days. They waited for God before God showed up. Wow, I don't know that we would do that. But Moses knew who God was. And Moses knew God was real. And Moses knew he had to wait. Moses had already waited 40 years, right, on God. Joshua was the only one, besides him and Caleb, that made it into the promised land. Look at the end. Yeah. Moses, he got to see the promised land. All these other people who had the other gods, they didn't make it. So there you have two groups of people. Which one are you going to be? Huh? You going to go to your own gods? Or are you going to realize that God is God? That he's the one that we need. And he's going to be our God.